DuArktik here with another Marvel Strike Force video, and in this video we're going to talk about Nova. We're going to talk about how exactly when you're going to unlock this character, how you're going to unlock this character so you can start preparing for his event. If you guys are not aware, Nova is coming the week after this week, so you can see right here on the calendar between the 18th of May and the 23rd of May. And this is going to be a type of Scourge. If you're new to the game, maybe you didn't experience a lot of these, but we have one going on right now in the game, which is the Archangel Scourge. So we're going to talk about all of these and how you can prepare for these events before they show up. And then we're going to see exactly how you have to set up your teams in order to prepare for this Scourge. So as always, if you like the information on these videos, make sure you share it with your friends on Facebook and Discord. If you're new to my channel, make sure you subscribe for more Marvel Strike Force content and make sure you smash that like button like a boss. Okay, let's get started once again. Nova is coming very soon. It seems like he's going to be a very powerful character. We already saw that his speed is going to be over 125 speed, making him faster than Quicksilver and Apocalypse. And that his kit is going to be very powerful even in arena. So we have flipping positive effects, applying disrupt and also applying stun turn 1, on top of having his battlefield effect that will benefit all kinds of allies, not just the allies from his team. And once again, you're gonna have him on the 18th of May to the 23rd of May. I'm not sure if this is wrong or not, but for the older Scourge events, for Marlon Faye, Red Hulk and so on, the event lasted for over 10 days, so maybe this is subject to change. Hopefully the beginning will be 18, but the end will be something else, because as you can see on the calendar, we have several days without doing anything. Okay, we'll see that in the future. Of course, in the channel, we're going to be having content for this. We'll have a small run of 1.5 million points or something, just for you to unlock Nova. And then we are going to run for the big points, the points that will allow you to get on the top 500 or something, depending on the investment. And this is why we're talking about this team. And this is why we're talking about Nova. It's because the characters required are quite problematic. Some of these characters are not going to be farmable, other characters are farmable but are outside of the meta. So overall, this is going to be something that we have to take into consideration, and that will require a lot of adaptation. So I always make these videos. I usually do some of it during the live streams, but then I'll do a full video guide. And I will make sure that I'll leave the stamps on so you can jump to the nodes that you need help with. Okay, so with that said, let's take a look just really quick on the current version for Archangel. So the event for Nova is going to be very similar. Instead of having the Scourge points with this A, it will have a different symbol. We already data mined that a long time ago. And instead of having the pyramids, I expect a new background and of course Nova instead of Archangel. Difficulty, the goal is going to be to do like difficulty 7 or difficulty 8. So not only you can unlock the character, but you can also get some additional red stars for him for free. If you feel like you could get higher score than the one you can get on this first run, just unlock him and then try to do this high score on the second run, because that will allow you to get more red stars for free. This is something that you have to take into consideration if you want to put all your eggs in your first basket and then spend dark promotion credits, or if you want to wait and on the second run make like a very good run and then get all the additional red stars and so on. Okay, so now that we know exactly how this is going to work, let's take a look at the teams. And the first team that we have is X Factor. So the characters required are X Factor, Quicksilver, and or Masters of Evil. So you can use a combination of all these characters together and make your ultimate team, or you can use each of these teams individually and use them to sack the nodes or something like that if you feel like it's necessary. Now, X Factor is a team that has been outside of the meta for quite some time, at least for the last 4 months or 5 months. Recently they were okay to use in Cosmic Crucible, but it's no longer the case. So they might be a good team for you to sack with, because otherwise, like, there is no reason to invest on these guys, to be honest. In terms of ISO 8, they are very limited on the type of ISO 8 that you can use with them. So you could use Longshot and Shatterstar. They have pretty much to be raiders, so their passive activates. They have a passive that gives extra barrier and extra crit damage, and the other one is the passive that gives extra speed bar and extra health. So depending on how you set up these teams, they might be super solid or not. Okay, so beyond that, for Longshot and Shatterstar, you don't have many options. Now, in terms of Polaris, she has the capability of being a striker or being a raider. Raider is going to make more consistent the experience, she's going to crit on the enemies, and then you're going to get more speed bar from the other characters. This is why it's important, and this is why I was telling you to mix match these characters, because let's imagine you put Kang here together with Longshot and Shatterstar. Kang will still activate the abilities of Longshot and Shatterstar. So keep that in mind. It doesn't matter where the crit comes from, it matters that someone crits. With Polaris, she's going to work exactly like that, but she doesn't have any special benefits out of her abilities. Her passive, and I think it's her basic or something, it gives extra barrier if the characters have bleed, and if you crit, it does piercing damage instead. So the ISO 8 for Polaris, unfortunately, is not going to be a big deal. It's just the tuning, the fine-tuning of the experience you want to have. In terms of Multiple Man is the character that no one wants to gear up. He's kind of trash. He was always trash. He was never useful anywhere. He might be useful on Cosmic Crucible Tournament 32, which I really doubt, because the rules are just trash and the character is trash as well. So overall, I don't think there is a big deal to invest in him, and this is why I'm saying, like, you rather use Kang or Quicksilver in this team, and we're going to talk about both of those characters in a second. So in terms of ISO 8, usually use him as a healer. Why? Absolutely for no reason. You can use him as a striker, and the striker is going to minor influence the damage output of the clones he has. Beyond that, this guy is pretty much just a fodder. You use his minions to take damage in the face from the enemies, but once again, this is going to depend which kind of enemies we are facing, because for example, if you are facing a Black Bolt or a Kestrel, then not only you're going to get Disrupt, you might not even be able to summon this enemy or these allies, so keep that in mind. Okay, so let's move on to other characters that are slightly more important. Let's talk about Quicksilver. And like I said, you can use Quicksilver with X Factor, you can use Quicksilver with Masters of Evil, or you can just use Quicksilver on his own to sack the node. Quicksilver, I think, is going to be an important character with the X Factor, because his basic attack attacks multiple times, and that means that the X Factor will take multiple turns thanks to that. So the fact that he has this charge mechanic that allows him to have 2 turns back to back, that means you have 2 chances of critting, and that will trigger the passive from Longshot and Shatterstar, making them go faster. Should you go Raider on him? Probably not. Once again, it's all going to be based on the experience. If you want as least RNG as possible, you could take him to Raider level 3 or something and see if you get lucky or some. I overall don't think it's a good idea to change the ISO 8 for this specific character, because yes, it helps the mechanic of other characters, but he is more important than those other characters. So that's the dilemma we have here. In terms of the special ability and ultimate, he removes charges, so that might be useful if you are facing some kind of Apocalypse or some kind of Red Hulk or Dormammu. And then the ultimate does tons and tons of damage with his piercing damage and applies tons of negative effects. Huge survivability, and on top of that, you have to remember that you also summon Scarlet Witch in case things start to go sour, and that will allow you to do extra crits on the enemies, heal up the team, and so on. So overall, this is a character that you should definitely prioritize in terms of ISO 8 and in terms of setup. I would not suggest taking right away to ISO 8 level 5 or anything like that, otherwise you might commit a risk or the mistake of giving him the wrong ISO 8. Okay, let's talk about the last team, which is the Masters of Evil, and then we're gonna take a look at some mix and matches that you can do. Okay, so we have Kang, we have Ultron, we have Absorbing Man, we have Titania, and we have Moonstone. As I said before, and the same case goes for Ultron with multiple men. If you are facing any kind of Kestrel, if you are facing any kind of mechanic that stops your summons or that applies Disrupt to you, like Black Bolt, Ultron is going to be a liability. So you have to once again mix match the team to make sure that you are taking advantage of the X Factor while also taking advantage of the Masters of Evil. In terms of ISO 8 for the Masters of Evil, remember that the bonuses that you have for Cosmic Crucible are not going to be activated. So you are going to have a lot less crit on these characters. And that's when ISO 8s like Skirmisher on Titania are going to be more convenient. The same goes for Moonstone. Having Skirmisher or Striker is going to be more convenient because she's going to get energy instead. That's why when I usually make my ISO 8 recommendations, I make them on utility rather than damage. Because yes, sure, if you're using them in Cosmic Crucible, if you have all of them as Raiders, maybe they are going to do more damage, but in other game modes, the utility is going to be a lot less, and you are going to be punished for that. So in terms of ISO 8 for Moonstone, once again, you can use it as a Skirmisher or as a Striker. She has a Turning Wind, she has a Stun, she has the defense down for multiple characters. Once again, because she attacks multiple characters, she can synergize as well with the X Factor. Then we have Titania and Absorbing Man. Absorbing Man is a turn 1 tank, he's going to taunt on spawn, and if you put Titania next to him, she's going to have a lot of counters, and that means that she's going to apply vulnerabilities to the enemies, which you can take advantage of with your Kang as a Striker or Titan or Moonstone as a Striker. So both of them can get more energy. So once again, depending on the ISO 8, depending on the position, you're going to have completely different experiences with this team. In terms of Ultron, we'll see if Raider is going to be good or if you have to change him to Striker. Or it might happen that we have one of those Scourges that forces us to have Fortifier ISO 8 in one of the characters. So for example, there is a Scourge that I'm not sure if we have on this run of Archangel, but there is usually a Scourge that if you have Fortifier, then whenever you... Okay, so you see right here, Butterfly Effect. When a character with Fortifier uses their ultimate ability, spread positive effects on this character to adjacent allies. So we can use that with Titania. We can use that with Titania to spread all the positive effects that she has, because she can copy and steal positive effects from the enemies with her special, and then use the ultimate to spread those positive effects, whether it is for Moonstone, for Ultron, or even for Kang. With Titania and with Ultron, this is something interesting because that will allow you to always have full buffs on Ultron, which is another convenient combination. And like I said, you can mix match either of these characters. So for example, if you go to Dark Dimension and you test out some of these teams, then we'll be able to mix match these characters. So for example, we already have X Factor here, we already have Kang here, we already have Quicksilver here. So you could bring Polaris, you could bring Moonstone, or you could bring Titania, whichever you prefer, and make a combination of these characters. And the good part about this is that Kang really benefits out of the X Factor passives, and the X Factor passives they activate for a lot of characters. So that's going to be super convenient to get that extra crit and extra crit damage. So you can see right here, Kang is going to go super fast, and he already triggered one time the passive of the X Factor. Now you're going to do the special, and that's going to trigger their passive once again. So they're going to start off with 40% turn bar compared to other characters. So now you're going to apply defense down to the enemies, tons and tons of crits, tons and tons of vulnerabilities that are going to benefit your Quicksilver and also your Kang. And as you can see, Quicksilver together with X Factor is very important because whenever they take a turn, he gets a bunch of buffs. So he already has defense up, immunity, evades, counters, and regeneration. And now we can use him to stop one of the enemies that we find more inconvenient, like Mordo right now. And now we could also apply Disrupt to one of these tanks so he's not in our way. And you see that the X Factor, they keep triggering. they're gonna trigger over and over again, and that will allow us to go extremely fast. You can see that even Kang is so fast and he cannot even catch up to the speed of the X Factor, and this is why making some hybrid teams is going to be super convenient, unless you are going or trying to going for the really top scores, where you need to use multiple teams, including using sack teams. Okay, so as you can see, we have a great combination of characters with X Factor and with Masters of Evil. Once again, we are going to have all of these runs on YouTube. I'm going to be live on YouTube and Twitch whenever the event drops, and we're going to do the easy run where you can unlock the character, and then we're going to do the big runs where you're going to go for the big rewards. So in case you want to take some notes, make sure you stay tuned to the channel. And that's it. So once again, the Nova event, sold event, why is it sold event? Nova event is going to come on May 18. Make sure you have your Masters of Evil and your X Factor ready, and as soon as we have more information about the node specifically on what you have to do and so on, we'll be making a video with the theory crafted teams on what's going to be the best teams for the first run. Either way, we're going to have a video down the line with everything breakdown step by step. So yeah guys, that's going to be the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure you smash that like button, and if you found the video helpful, make sure you share it with your friends on Facebook and Discord. If you're new to my channel, make sure you subscribe for more Marvel Strike Force content, and I'll catch you guys later.